One of the ways of praying with the Gospels is to imagine oneself in the scene and to let it unfold around you, experiencing its sights, its sounds, its smells, and the like. It's a helpful technique popularized by St. Ignatius and promulgated with the Jesuits. So let's do that with today's Gospel. Let us enter into the scene as one of the disciples in that room. Let us see the risen Lord. What would we feel if we really did enter into that scene? Wouldn't we be nervous? After all, we would be among the disciples who ran away from Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, the ones who abandoned him to his fate. We would not have been with him at Calvary as John and the women were. No, we would have been in hiding, trembling and afraid. Now into this room where we have locked ourselves away for fear of the authorities appears Jesus, risen from the dead. He has found us cowering in our hiding place. We stand before him, embarrassed, ashamed of our failure. He stands before us in his glorified body, that same body wounded and broken for us, now glorified. Awe and reverence overcome us as the reality becomes apparent. He was dead. He is risen, and he is standing right there in front of us. And he knows us. He knows that we weren't there. He knows we were scared. He knows we ran away and that we did not follow him. And he knows why. And he knows that we are sorry, that we regret it. After 3 years together, Jesus knows us well. He knows that we do love him, but that we are weak, that we wish we had done better, but that we were scared. He knows all of that, and he still loves us. Despite everything that we have done and those things which we should have done, Jesus loved us enough to redeem us through that horrible, torturous death on the cross. And he has mercy on us. He forgives us. And so as Jesus appears among his disciples, that frightened group locked up in the room for fear, his first words to us are, "Peace be with you." Doesn't just say it once, he says it twice. Peace be with you. Now, if we were meditating on that passage in our own private prayer time, it might be the time here to pause and spend some time thinking about our own personal infidelities to the Lord, our own sinful betrayals, our own indifference to his call, our own self-absorption. And then when we were ready to move on, after we had acknowledged our shortcomings, we could consider the particular case of Thomas. He has a lot in common with the rest of us disciples. He also ran away in the garden. He wasn't at the crucifixion either. But for him alone, when the Lord appeared and breathed on the disciples, he wasn't there. And then when he found out what the others had experienced, he became very frustrated. So frustrated that he spoke rashly. Jesus knows it. He knows all of it. And so he invites Thomas to touch him, to know with his own hands, his own eyes, his own experience that the man before him is really Jesus, risen from the dead. Not a ghost, not a spirit, not an illusion, but a real man, a man who died and is now alive. Believe it. This is true, Thomas. And he believes because we have seen, and we have faith because we believe in his testimony. St. Peter writes about faith in a time of persecution. He is writing from Rome during a trying time in which the church itself is being tested. It is not an easy time to be a Christian. Peter compares faith to gold. He writes that faith is more precious than the passing splendor of fire-tried gold. Gold is perishable in a way. You know, it can be lost, it can be stolen. If something is gilted, the gilt can wear off. But it can also be adulterated. Other metals can be mixed in to increase its weight and make it seem to be more valuable than it is. it can be impure, but still look pretty. So if one had a bag of gold of uncertain quality, you could call upon a goldsmith to test its purity. And he would use fire to melt it, and then it would burn away any impurities, or he could skim them off until only pure gold remained. Peter likens the persecutions that we experience for the sake of the gospel to that purifying fire. Only the pure gold of our genuine faith will remain. And how does the goldsmith know when the process is completed? He knows when he can look at that molten gold and see his own reflection in it. That's when our purification is complete as well. When the Father can look and see reflected back to him the face of his Son. Because that is our goal, isn't it? To become the image of Christ, so that when people look at us, they see Jesus. For people to look at our relationships and say, oh, look at those Christians. See how they love one another. It's attractive. Many people saw that early Christian community and found it attractive, and every day the Lord added to their numbers those who were being saved. The life that we heard described today in Acts was attractive then, and it is attractive now. That common life, they devoted themselves to meeting together in the temple area and to breaking bread in their homes. They ate their meals in exultation and sincerity of heart. Attractive, yes. It looks nice. But we know the real truth. We know that everyone living like that didn't used to. There was a time in their lives of sin, a time of shame, a time of estrangement from the Lord. And then there was that moment of encounter, the encounter with his mercy. Our faith says, and we believe, that Jesus conquered sin and death. He rose from the dead to give us new life. And we no longer need to live in fear, no longer to live in shame. For he who conquered sin and death came to bring us his mercy and give us his peace. Peace be with you, he said, twice. For this great mercy of God, let us be thankful. As we sang a little bit ago, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His mercy endures forever.